Good evening and welcome to Scotland at 7. My name is Saoirse Healey. I'll be running you through tonight's top stories of the day. As always, we start with our Ukraine update. It's day 621 of the war. The Ukrainian army has confirmed soldiers from its 128th Mountain Assault Brigade were killed in a Russian missile strike during what media described as a medal award ceremony. A Ukrainian soldier said on social media that 22 people were killed and criticized commanders for having held the event in Ukraine's southern Zaporizhzhia region. On Sunday, Russia admitted that Ukrainian cruise missiles damaged a warship docked at the occupied Crimean Peninsula a day after Ukraine announced the strike. Ukraine launched 15 cruise missiles at the B.E. Batoma shipyard based in the east coast city of Kerch on Saturday. Ukrainian attacks have progressively been making Crimea untenable for Russia's Black Sea Fleet to use. Ukraine said the damaged warship was one of Russia's most advanced, able to fire caliber cruise missiles. Online observers named the ship as Askold. President Zelensky said the cost of letting Russia win the war would be further conflict involving ground troops from NATO countries, as he urged US lawmakers on NBC's Meet the Press to increase war funding. Zelensky also said he was not ready for talks unless Russia was withdrawing invading troops. Zelensky also urged Donald Trump to visit Ukraine, where he said it would take minutes to show the war skeptic former US president his errors about the conflict. The Ukrainian president's office has publicly rebuked top military commander Valery Zaluzhny for his comments that the war was at a stalemate. The office of Zelensky said that Zaluzhny's words were helpful to Russia and stirred panic. President Zelensky said the war in Gaza was distracting focus from Ukraine's war against Russia as humanitarian, diplomatic, and media attention shifts to the Middle East. Russian casualties climbed to more than 305,000 dead or injured, Ukraine said, with the US estimating 120,000 Russian deaths and 180,000 injured in the invasion. Ukraine's Colonel Alexander Stupin said Russian forces were following cannon fodder tactics, referring to fighting over the Tavria region. Fake Russian propaganda linking the Gaza and Ukraine wars is spreading online, with a fabricated Israeli promotional video claiming to show Ukrainians fighting in Israel exposed by the news organization Ukrinform. Russia and Saudi Arabia confirmed that they would be restricting the supply of crude oil until the end of this year in efforts to raise the price of oil worldwide. The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said on Saturday that Ukraine has made excellent progress towards EU accession as she visited Kyiv and affirmed EU support for Ukraine for as long as it takes. Moving over to Israel and Gaza, over 10,000 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli military action in Gaza since the 7th of October, according to new figures released by the Gaza Health Authority in the territory. The total number of deaths now stands at 10,022, including 4,104 children. The leaders of the UN's major humanitarian agencies, as well as international charities, have called for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza, calling the situation horrific and unacceptable in a rare joint statement. The signatories included the heads of the OCHA, UNICEF, the World Food Programme, the WHO, Save the Children, and Care International. They said an entire population is besieged and under attack, denied access to essentials for survival, bombed in their homes, shelters, hospitals, and places of worship. This is unacceptable. Late on Sunday, the Israel military announced that it had encircled Gaza City and divided the besieged coastal strip into two. In its latest situational update, Israel's military claims that Israeli jets struck 450 Hamas targets and has claimed to have killed Jamal Musa. The IDF claims have not been independently verified. An Israeli army spokesperson has welcomed the deployment of an Ohio-class U.S. nuclear missile submarine in the region. It's unusual for the U.S. to publicly announce a nuclear submarine's position, and it has been seen to many as a warning message to Iran. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said his discussions in Turkey on Monday had a focus on efforts to significantly expand the humanitarian assistance to people in need, and claimed that his visit to the region had helped prevent escalation of the conflict. Blinken told the media at the airport before departing Turkey, "We discussed efforts to significantly expand the humanitarian assistance to people in need and efforts to prevent the conflict expanding in other parts of the region." The border authority in Gaza has said that the Rafah crossing is only open for evacuations by Egyptians and foreigners listed since the 1st of November. Palestine telecommunications company Paltel has said that communications are gradually being restored in the besieged Gaza Strip after a third Israeli-imposed blackout of the conflict. The Palestinian Health Ministry said that 1 Palestinian was killed and 3 were wounded by Israeli fire in the occupied West Bank village of Halhul, north of Hebron. Israel has reportedly arrested Ahmed Tamimi, the Palestinian activist who made global headlines as a teenager in 2018 when she was arrested and later jailed for slapping and kicking IDF soldiers. Israel's far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir praised Tamimi's arrest in a post on Twitter, calling her a terrorist. Jordan has airdropped a medical aid package to a hospital in Gaza using parachutes from Jordanian Air Force planes. The European Commission's President Ursula von der Leyen said that the EU was increasing its humanitarian aid to Gaza by another 25 million euros, bringing total aid to 100 million euros. Joseph Borrell, the EU's foreign policy chief, said in a speech this morning that the situation in the Middle East is the outcome of a collective political and moral failure due to a real lack of willingness to solve the Israeli-Palestine problem. The UK Foreign Office said it was temporarily withdrawing some British embassy staff from Lebanon today. South Africa is recalling diplomats from Israel to assess its relationship with the country, its foreign minister has said, saying that Israel was involved in the collective punishment of Palestinians. China has said that it will do its utmost to restore peace to the Palestinian territories as it takes over the presidency of the UN Security Council. Moving back to the UK, a UN envoy has warned that the UK government is violating international law over the unacceptably high levels of poverty in the UK. UN Special Rapporteur Oliver de Schutter, the UN's Special Rapporteur on Extreme Poverty and Human Rights, cited research showing universal credit payments of £85 a week for single adults over 25 were grossly insufficient, and described the UK's main welfare system as a leaking bucket. De Schutter said it's simply not acceptable that we have more than a fifth of the population in a rich country such as the UK at risk of poverty today, referring to government data showing that 14.4 million people lived in relative poverty in 21 to 22, a million more than the previous year. The policies in place are not working or not protecting people in poverty, and much more needs to be done for these people to be protected. Commenting, SNP Women and Equality spokesperson Kirsten Oswald MP said, "The UN envoy is right to criticise the UK government's shameful record on poverty, which shows why Scotland needs full powers of independence to eradicate poverty. While the SNP government has taken thousands of people out of poverty with progressive policies like the Scottish Child Payment, the Tories have pushed people back into destitution by cutting benefits and failing to help families with the soaring cost of living in the UK. Rishi Sunak must finally take action to reverse the unacceptable levels of poverty in the UK, including by matching the Scottish Child Payment, raising benefits in line with inflation, and introducing an essentials guarantee to ensure families have enough money to get by." The SNP will continue to press for urgent action from the UK government, but it's increasingly clear independence is key to eradicating poverty in Scotland. Only with full powers of independence can Scotland escape Westminster, control and build a wealthier, fairer society. Independent European nations like Scotland are wealthier and fairer than the UK, so the question has to be, why not Scotland? The Conservative peer Michelle Mone has acknowledged for the first time that she was involved with PPE MedPro, a company that was awarded government PPE contracts worth £200 million during the COVID pandemic. Mone's husband, Douglas Barrowman, has also acknowledged for the first time that he was involved with the company. The Guardian is reporting that a representative of Barrowman told the paper on the Isle of Man-based businessman was an investor in PPE MedPro and chaired and led the operation to supply personal protective equipment. The admissions raise questions about the years of denial from the couple since 2020. Mone and Barrowman have consistently and emphatically denied that they were involved in the company. 3 years on, a representative for the couple who has said he had Mone and Barrowman's permission to respond to questions on their behalf has made a statement that departs significantly from those denials. The representative, who is also a spokesperson for PPE MedPro, told The Guardian the UK government was fully aware of Baroness Mone's involvement. Like many other peers and MPs on the high priority lane, she acted as an intermediary or liaison between PPE MedPro and the Cabinet Office/Department of Health and Social Care. The representative added that Barrowman, who runs the Knox Group, a tax and wealth advisory firm on the Isle of Man, was the chairman and leader of the PPE MedPro consortium that supplied the UK government. The representative said the consortium was a partnership between PPE MedPro and 2 other companies that were involved in sourcing the PPE, Loudwater Trade and Finance, based in London, and Eric Beer Associates, a Hong Kong company. The Knox 50% was provided by the family office of Doug Barrowman, the representative has said. Barrowman provided half the money required upfront through his family office, a part of the Knox firm, which The Guardian believes is ultimately controlled by Barrowman and manages his private wealth. The Department of Health and Social Care, the DHSC, granted PPE MedPro 2 contracts in May and June of 2020, near the start of the pandemic, to supply millions of face masks and sterile gowns for a total of £203 million. The contracts were processed through the DHSC's VIP high priority lane, which fast-tracked offers of PPE from companies with connections to the Conservative Party or government. Staying with the UK, the SNP has called on the UK government to urgently address the medicine shortage created by Brexit red tape. The SNP warned that the shortages were putting NHS patients at risk as vital antibiotics, hormone replacement therapy, and ADHD drugs are among the drugs most affected by the supply shortages this winter, resulting in the NHS having to pay at inflated prices to acquire them. A report by the Independent Commission of UK-EU Relations has highlighted that shortages have affected a range of medicines across the board since Brexit, pointing the blame towards costly new paperwork and new regulators are major factors. The director of this commission, Mike Buckley, said the poor Brexit agreements we have is making things worse for the NHS, which he admitted is already under strain. He continued, the health service has seen a severe disruption to the supply of medicine and medical equipment, as well as access to skilled labour since Brexit. Commenting, the SNP's health spokesperson, Amy Callaghan MP, has said, the fact that vital medicines are in short supply as a result of Brexit red tape will be extremely concerning for many. It's vital that the Westminster government do everything in their power to address this mess of their own making and ensure people get the medicine they need without delay. With both the Tories and pro-Brexit Labour Party content on continuing down this destructive path of Brexit red tape and shortages, the SNP are focused on a future where our NHS is protected in an independent Scotland leaving the EU, inside the EU. The quote continues, "Leaving the EU has been an undeniable disaster. However, by rejoining the European Union and the world's largest single market, we could end the mountains of red tape and bureaucracy that the NHS is currently facing. Only the SNP are offering an alternative through independence and a return to economic prosperity." Police in Scotland have said that it faced unprecedented levels of violence while protecting communities from bonfire night disorder. Initial analysis suggests there has not been a rise in recorded firework offences compared to last year. However, throughout Sunday, there were a number of serious disturbances that required a specialist police response across the country. In Niddry in Edinburgh, officers received reports from concerned members of the public around 4:40 p.m. in relation to a large group of both adults and young people gathering in the Hay Avenue area. Approximately 50 youths within this group were responsible for directing fireworks at vehicles and buildings with members of the public inside, and escalated their behaviour when police arrived, attacking both uniformed and public order officers with fireworks, petrol bombs, and other projectiles. Detectives investigating the attacks on officers within Niddry are actively pursuing a number of individuals who they believe were providing local youths with fireworks and petrol bombs to target the police. Inquiries into this matter are continuing. In Dundee, 2 police vehicles that were out to provide a visible presence to the local community were damaged after being struck by bricks in the Bewley Square area. In Glasgow, around 9 p.m, police received a report of 2 separate groups of youths fighting and throwing fireworks at one another within the Quarrywood Avenue area of Barmulloch. In total, 8 officers sustained minor injuries during deployments in Edinburgh and Glasgow, while only a small number of arrests were made on the evening as a result of significant challenges officers faced to ensure no harm came to communities. Substantial pieces of evidence have already been gathered and dedicated inquiry teams have been established to progress these investigations. It's anticipated further arrests will take place in the coming days. Assistant Chief Constable Tim Mayers, Gold Commander for Operation Moonbeam, said, "The overwhelming majority of Scotland enjoyed a bonfire night safely and responsibly. But once again, a minority of individuals have been responsible for an unacceptable and frankly disgusting level of disorder that left communities alarmed and police officers injured. The violent nature of the situation witnessed in the Niddry area of Edinburgh is extremely concerning, not least because it is believed young people were being actively encouraged and coordinated by adults to target officers whilst they were carrying out their duties. Investigations into the offences that arose throughout Scotland on Sunday evening are continuing, and we will make every effort to ensure anyone who was involved and identified is brought to justice. If any members of the public believe they have information that can assist our inquiries, then please contact us via 101 or make an anonymous report to Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111. Moving over to America, Donald Trump has took the stand in a Manhattan federal courthouse today in the lawsuit that was brought by the New York Attorney General Letitia James, who is accusing the former president and several top Trump Organization executives, including his eldest sons, of fraudulently inflating the value of the former president's properties to secure better loans from banks. The lawsuit filed by James last September states the number of grossly inflated asset values is staggering, affecting most, if not all, of the real estate holdings in any given year. Outside the court today, Letitia James said she expected Trump to engage in name-calling and taunts and racist baiting and call this a witch hunt. But at the end of the day, the only thing that matters are the facts and the numbers. And numbers, my friends, don't lie, she said. On the stand, Trump downplayed the importance of the financial statements the judge had already ruled were fraudulent. Shown a financial statement from 2011, Trump pointed out a disclaimer. "We would call it worthless statement clause," he said. They were not really documents that the banks paid much attention to. They just weren't a very important element in a bank's decision-making process, and we'll explain this very crazy trial goes. We'll explain this as the very crazy trial goes along, said Trump. In September, the judge overseeing the trial, Arthur Engoron, had already ruled that Trump committed fraud for years as he expanded his real estate empire. At that time, he specifically threw out Trump's worthless clause argument. The defendant's reliance on these worthless disclaimers is worthless. Engoron has already fined Trump $15,000 for publicly attacking his clerk on social media. Trump has also launched attacks against Engoron himself, calling the judge a fraudster and Trump-hating radical left Democrat operative judge. Trump's hearing is expected to go into Wednesday when his daughter Ivanka Trump is scheduled to testify. The ex-president's testimony will follow the testimonies from his two adult sons, Eric and Donald Jr., who repeatedly claimed last week that they do not recall or have knowledge surrounding the statements of financial conditions of the heart of this trial. The Scottish Government has said that women and girls will be better protected and victims' needs prioritised as a part of their proposed reforms to improve social justice services and create safer communities. The Vision for Justice Delivery Plan, published today, also includes actions to address long-standing challenges in the system faced by victims of sexual offences and the continued modernisation of the prison estate. The ambitious programme of reforms are being taken forward to March 2026 in a plan which puts a fresh focus on early intervention to prevent and reduce crime to make communities safer. The reforms build on the significant progress already achieved since February 2022, when the Scottish Government published the Vision for Justice, outlining a strategy to modernise, strengthen and improve the justice sector to ensure it meets all the needs of those who use it. Reforms planned up to March 2026 include the introduction of a misogyny bill to create new offences related to misogynistic conduct, continued modernisation of the prison estate, including opening HMP Highland and starting building work on HMP Glasgow to replace Barlinnie. The national rollout of a system to digitally transform how evidence is managed across the justice sector, benefiting victims and witnesses by supporting quicker resolution of cases. Expanding the availability of mediation services in civil disputes to save people time, stress and money. Justice Secretary Angela Constant said this delivery plan maps out further actions to reform, modernise and strengthen the justice system so it better meets the needs of victims, reducing reoffending and ensures rates of offending continue to be at historic lows. The reforms are bold and wide-ranging. They include action to better protect women and girls, improve services for children, and prevent and reduce crime through early intervention. The vision sets out our transformative vision for the justice sector, and this updated delivery plan, which has been approved by our justice partners, shows the significant progress that has been made so far. This includes the introduction of the Victims, Witnesses and Criminal Justice Reform Scotland Bill, which, if passed, will put victims and witnesses at the very heart of the justice system, and the creation of Ben's House test sites to ensure a range of trauma-informed support is available to child victims and witnesses of abuse and harm. At the heart of all of this work is our determination to build a trauma-informed and person-centered justice system in which individuals and communities can trust. Staying with the Scottish Government, they have become the first national administration in the UK to be accredited as a living hours employer, following commitments to provide secure contracts and flexible hours. The announcement was made by Fair Work Secretary Neil Gray at the beginning of the Living Wage Week, which highlights the benefits to businesses, employees, and the economy of paying a real living wage. The Scottish Government champions fair work through its employment practices and policies, such as specifying that organisations applying for public sector grants must pay a at least a real living wage, and provide channels for staff to have a say in the workplace. In 2015, it became the first government in the UK to pay at least the real living wage. On a visit to Carluke food manufacturer R.W. & Scott, a real living wage and living hours accredited employer, Mr. Gray said, "This is a very recognition of the Scottish Government's commitment and promotion of fair work principles. No one should be working in an insecure, unstable job and not be paid a real living wage. Fair work and fair pay makes sense for both workers and employers across the sectors, helping to improve staff retention and productivity, reduce recruitment costs, and contribute to a skilled and motivated workforce. In turn, that benefits the wider economy, including by boosting spending power in local communities." Good progress has been made on the real living wage in Scotland, with more than 3,400 employers now accredited and proportionally more over 18s in Scotland earning the real living wage than in any other country. Now we are looking to go further by championing the real living hours scheme. I encourage businesses across Scotland to look at the scheme and sign up to ensure that they are providing the best possible work conditions for their staff. Actions to help improve the lives of British Sign Language (BSL) users have been published as a part of an ongoing work to make Scotland the best place to live, work and visit for people that use the language. The BSL National Plan 2023 to 29 has made 45 commitments aimed at tackling barriers faced by BSL users by embedding the language across health, education, transport, culture and employment. Commitments made include building the right partnerships and connections to ensure deaf and deafblind children and their families can access BSL support at an early age. Improving accessibility to arts and culture events, in addition to promoting BSL culture. Working with Transport Scotland and transport operators on solutions to make public transport easier for BSL users. Improving accessibility of Scottish Government websites for BSL users. The Education Secretary Jenny Gilruth said, "BSL is a vibrant language which is of significant importance to the lives of many people. This plan lays out our ambition to make Scotland the best place in the world for BSL users to visit and live in. These 45 commitments will improve access to vital services and provide more opportunities for BSL users to contribute further to Scotland's economy, culture and communities. The BSL community should be at the heart of our decision-making process in this area, which is why we also established a BSL National Plan Implementation Advisory Group to ensure that the views of the community are properly represented." The Scottish Government has announced that the MV Alfred will continue to operate on the Clyde and Hebrides ferry service network for an additional 6 months. The vessel was originally chartered from Pentland Ferries in March for an initial 9 months, but an agreement has been reached to extend the charter until the end of July 2024. CalMac will confirm the details of MV Alfred's deployment in due course, but with the return of the Hebridean Isles service, it's expected that she will operate as a resilience vessel and will also assist with vessel overhaul cover where required. Minister for Transport Fiona Hislop said, "The MV Alfred can operate on a number of routes on the network and allows other vessels to be moved to minimise any disruption if necessary. The Scottish Government is committed to improving our lifeline ferry services and better meeting the needs of island communities. We will continue to look at options to support the CHFS network ahead of 6 new vessels currently under construction joining the fleet in 2026. Robbie Drummond, CalMac's chief executive, said, "We are very much welcome to the extension of the charter of MV Alfred for a further 6 months. The vessel has been a valuable addition to the CalMac fleet and has provided much-needed resilience on the main Arran route, while MV Hebridean Isles was off service for an extended period." New international research led by the University of St Andrews reveals historical high-latitude volcanic eruptions caused dramatic but short-lived climate cooling. The new study, led by the School of Earth and Environmental Sciences in St Andrews with international colleagues from Switzerland and the US, published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, the PNAS, today, finds that massive volcanic eruptions caused historic global cooling. Unusually cold decades such as the 540s, the 1450s, and the 1600s are associated with large volcanic eruptions, resulting in volcanic sulfate particles reflecting incoming sunlight. The source of the volcanic eruptions, however, and the amount of sulfate they injected into the upper atmosphere is uncertain. To address this, the international team of researchers led by Dr. Andrea Burke from the University of St Andrews studied sulfur isotopes in ice cores from Greenland and Antarctica. The isotopes provided a fingerprint of the fraction of the sulfate that reached the stratosphere. The results, correlated with tree ring climate data, reveal the largest historical cooling periods were due to volcanic eruptions at high latitudes. The results also showed that the amount of sulfate injected into the stratosphere by these eruption events may have been around half that previously estimated, suggesting that summer temperatures may be highly sensitive to high latitude volcanic eruptions. Our data show that when Earth's climate gets altered, other parts of the climate system can kick in to strongly amplify this initial change, said Dr. Burke. High latitudes feel these amplified climate changes particularly strongly, which is concerning given how rapidly these regions are changing today. According to the authors, the sensitivity of temperatures to high latitude eruptions highlights the role of climate feedback, such as sea ice extent and ocean heat content, in amplifying changes in global climate. So that's everything for tonight. Before you go, of course, as always, I want to remind you that at Broadcasting Scotland, we depend on the generosity of you, our viewers. So to everyone who has already signed up to make regular monthly payments, thank you so much. Our programmes will, of course, always be free to view. However, if you can afford £5 a month, please consider becoming a Broadcasting Scotland supporter. We still have an incredibly pressing need to reach our £30,000 goal for our bills. And thankfully, to the generosity of everyone watching at home, we have raised over £20,500. However, the need to raise the remaining amount is really urgent. So please share the channel and subscribe if you can. I'm Saoirse Healey. Good night and thank you for watching.